Welcome to the Press One for Nick podcast. My name is Nick Glimsdahl. My guest this week is Shantanu Das. Shantanu is the GM and head of global frontline customer experience at Wayfair. And with his extensive background in operational management and automotive supply chain, Shantanu has spearheaded transformational programs across various industries and geographies. Shantanu and I will both be speaking at Customer Contact Week in Vegas in June. And I believe you're going to be talking about the conversations on achieving customer happiness, which I'm looking forward to attending. And it's all about the Wayfair's journey to unleashing the power of customer experience. We talked about this just a little bit right before we started, but I think you and I can both continue that conversation for hours into the night and not exhaust our customer experience passion. But for those who don't know a little bit about Customer Contact Week, it is a leading event series dedicated to serving professionals within the customer service industry. It kicks off its Silver Jubilee celebration in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is 25 years of shaping customer excellence. This year's events returns back to the Caesars Forum from June 19th through the 22nd. And Customer Contact Week is powered by CCW Digital. It is a division of customer management practice. And if you use the code CCWLV_P1N, so press one for Nick, you get an additional 20% off. So go tell your friends, tell your family, and bring them all. It's going to be a great journey, and don't miss Shantanu's conversation around the customer happiness. Shantanu, welcome to the Press One for Nick podcast.
Thank you, Nick. Great to be here. So excited.
I'm looking forward to the conversation. I'm sure, like I said, we have plenty to talk about, but I do want to kind of touch on the topic that you will be talking about. I don't want to spill the entire beans, but it's obviously about customer happiness. So for those who are naysayers, let's start there. Why do you believe customer happiness and loyalty are critical for business success?
So I think if you think about the root of any business, right? And I'm not just talking about e-commerce. At the front and center of it is, how are you impacting, changing, improving a customer's life? It could be a product, it could be a service. So in my mind, there is no other way to think about a certain business, whichever industry it is, without putting the customer first, thinking about the customer first. And that means not only analyzing the data in terms of what the customer is verbatim telling you, but also things that the customer is not telling you. And through data analysis, technology, you are able to connect the dots between the two things and actually drive meaningful improvement.
I think that's so key, is not just what they're saying and how they're acting, but what they're not saying, and how are you asking those clarifying questions, or how are you looking at the data or even customer sentiment around the issues that are at hand. Sometimes what they say versus what they do are different things, and it's important to pay attention to it and have a correlation between the two to deliver that ultimate happiness. So could you, any chance you could share some of that insight of what you guys are doing to measure that customer happiness?
Absolutely, yeah. So the leading indicator of customer happiness is NPS, right? So as you know, it's on a scale of 10, and basically what you ask the customers is, how likely are you recommend this company to another customer? But that is at the highest level. But then when you look at it, it breaks down into multiple components. This is the known part of what the customer is directly telling you, which is, when you think of the e-commerce industry, there is post-visit. There's an experience when you visit the website, you're looking at the products and how are we making it easy for them to select the product that they love. The second part of it is, I've selected the product, I've bought it. What is the experience in terms of delivery? Right? And the third part of it is, delivered great, but what's happening after delivery, and does the customer continue to be happy and satisfied after the delivery, right? So we look at all of these components, and based on this, we measure, right? Saying, where is the happiness the least, right? Or is downgrading, and how do we ensure that we improve that? This is the known part, like I said. The unknown, what the customers are not telling us is think about it as these are 5, 6, 7% of customers who actually went up, filled that up. What about the remaining who came and never said anything? This is where the power of analytics comes in, where you look at the end-to-end journey, starting from visits to the time someone purchased, to the time it got delivered and then post-delivery, and try and link dots. For example, as I'm delivering a set of products, we know a certain set of products are in back order, right? Let's say. Now, of the 100 customers who may have been impacted in terms of delivery delay because of a certain back order, one of them may have told you. But what it means is you can safely assume remaining 99 also felt the impact of that, right? So that's what we're trying to do, like bring the two things together: post-visit, post-delivery, and then post-visit, post-delivery, and then potentially post-incidents if sort of any incidents happen. Using the power of data science to then take the comments verbatim, linking into expanding into the whole data set, which helps us track end-to-end, bring it together, and then driving actions. So without getting up, sorry.
No, this is great. And I was going to say so one of the panels that I'm leading is about the analytics. And so I'm going to kind of pick your brain just a little bit, because I think, how has the power of analytics, of that journey and linking those different journey subsections together, improved over the last 5 or so years? And what have you done with that, or what should organizations be doing with that information?
Yeah, a great question, Nick. So obviously it has evolved significantly over time, and I think it'll go even further. So how do we? So step one of this is ensuring that your data systems are talking to each other, right? And what I mean by that is, typically what you will find in many different companies, yes, we have like CRMs and things like that, which go across the company, but there are quite a few siloed systems typically in every company that stays, which is supply chain tracking and monitoring of a live order stays in its own domain. Customer service KPIs impact stays in its own domain. Marketing, marketing numbers, like they all stay in their own domains. And then the only way it rolls up, it rolls up at the highest level, which is, revenue, margin, what's happening to direct cost, indirect costs, and so on. What we have been trying to do is a bit of re-architecturing of the underlying source data systems itself, right? So as to say, so one, if I see a certain number in supply chain and it has a direct correlation with how we are approaching the customer experience, the data needs to flow through, right? Call it something like fix the basic. That's one of the basics that I think I'm sure a lot of companies are doing, and the ones who are not might be already on the journey of linking that, right? Because unless that happens, this end-to-end that I was talking about, that's never going to happen. So that's stage one. Stage two of that is, how do you then interpret the data into actionable insights? Just because an NPS has gone up or down means nothing.
Yeah.
What it means is, how do I then use that in a meaningful way? So what we have been able to do is to use our data science capabilities to I'll take a simple example, right? So for example, take the comments, looking at the comments, understand based on the comments, the words used, how was the customer what do we think the customer was feeling about the situation? And then what are some of the thematic things that we are hearing, and then extrapolating that back to have those things happen to a larger cohort, right? That was a bit of a complicated piece for us to crack. As I'm saying it, easier said than done. It takes a bit of a few iterations to get that right. Because what you don't want to do is focus on a set of actions which actually don't drive the meaningful impact, that you would want to drive, right? So that's the second piece. And the third piece of this is make that predictive, which meaning now that I've learned this and I have the data and the systems in place, how do I use that to make, for example, customer service more proactive and personalized? So if a customer has called us or contacted us 2 times or 3 times already, the propensity of that dissatisfaction is meaningfully higher versus someone who contacted us the first time, right? And that already from the data analysis. Now, if you have the right markers in place in your systems, it then drives a proactive outreach, and therefore the customer is hopefully more delighted than them having to reach back to us that saying my problem has not been solved yet. Does that answer your question, Nick?
Yeah. And we keep bringing back to this, but I can feel how you're fired up about it and how you continue. It's the people that are most successful as leaders in your role are absolutely obsessed. If I think of, I was just listening to the book Shoe Dog, and the guy who started Nike, and he's going and he's absolutely obsessed and breaking apart. And Bill Bowerman was the Oregon coach of track and cross country coach, and he's absolutely just digging through and obsessing and breaking down the shoe and looking at different models and what's working, what's not working, and if you knock off this percentage of the shoe's weight, it's actually going to reduce 55 foot-pounds over an 800 meter. And I can hear that passion, the way that you talk about customer service and customer experience. So it's exciting to hear that. One of the questions I did have based off of what you mentioned was around actionable insights. And I think that is awesome. My question to you is, how are you aligning those actionable insights to business objectives? Because I think sometimes organizations have that disconnect of customer service and customer experience in that silo and having actionable insights, but also not linking those to the business objectives.
Such a great question, Nick. That is where I think a lot of the companies get to a certain point, but really don't see the meaningful results. So absolutely fair question. Yeah, so the way we do this is we have something called a STO, like single thread owner structure, right? And so what that does is, and every 6 months as a company, we look through the company level major key objectives and making sure that all of us align together. And that's our CEO plus, the senior leadership group. Through that process, what we are able to do is, as a company, align on the key objectives around, what are the things we need to fix? What are the things we need to make sure we deliver in terms of customer experience? And, what are the things we need to do to make sure we, we get to a profitable margin state, right? And so everything is sort of aligned in these 2 or 3 buckets. There are clear KPIs assigned to that, right? And now that breaks down now into the, call it department level or primarily STO level, objectives and results. And so there's a very easy way for us to link that, given this single thread owner model that we have in place.
I like that model because it is across organizational departments, and love to dig more about that. Maybe when we come in and see you in person, I'll pick your brain a little bit more on that. But wanted to kind of touch a little bit more on that customer happiness on that journey. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing the way that I see it from a consumer's perspective is it feels very seamless from a consumer at Wayfair. I'm guessing it hasn't always been that way. So my question is around where were some of the pain points, and how did you go about addressing those or communicating across the organization? Because sometimes those pain points aren't just, the root cause is not customer service. Maybe it is somewhere else, and you're finding that through that analytics. But how did you go through that journey to identify some of those pain points?
Yeah. It is a difficult journey, but I can tell you this, that I think in Wayfair, right, one of our core principles that we live by is like we win together, right? And literally that's one of our people's principles. And what that means is, I think, collaborating across different parts of the organization, it's almost so embedded in us that it's almost something, it's a second nature for everyone. Plus, when I think of the single thread owner model, that also enables, fosters, I would say, this collaborative environment. But coming to customer, driving customer experience, through customer happiness, initiatives, you're right. I think a lot of the times, the reason customer service, I would say, exists is when there are problems, we will solve it for you, and hence we exist, right? I think however, when you think about what's the root cause of the problem, it goes on much beyond just customer service, right? So without getting into like too much of the structure behind this, the way we do this is, there are regular connects, within these cross-functional leaders groups, and depending on what the key themes are, right? For example, like one of the themes is about, conversational AI. And when we believe conversational AI with human in the loop, the combination of the two things is going to drive significant benefit for our customers, right? We always like to keep the human touch. Now, that is not something that customer service would just do it by themselves, because the application of that, therefore, is in entire organization. So we have people from different parts of the organization come together to say, how is this going to solve the customer problem? What are the customer problems that we'll solve, not only for service when they reach out to service, it could be on the sales side as well, and it could be on supply chain side as well, as the supply chain teams and the carriers are coordinating within them, right? For example. So every key project sort of is always somehow structured around this single thread owner concept, where yes, somebody will take the lead, but there will be there will be representation from different parts of the function. But at the same time, when I look at the NPS and the data, it's something that is tracked, monitored, and looked at the highest level, right, including our CEO, right? So it's not one person's focus. I think it's the entire company has always been, and I think will always continue to be, very customer focused, and customer focused, having it integrated as a part of our people's principle, the STO model, and this way of regular connects. I think a combination of these things help us drive the impact, even when it is the source may not be customer service.
I like that thought process, because it's not just about that customer experience, which you're focusing on, but when it comes to, you touched on conversational AI, if you can identify what your priorities are, and it is aligning back to those outcomes. Sometimes when it comes to AI, you can build it once and you can deploy it many across different departments and different use cases. And I like that, because it's solving many problems and it's not magnifying that cost. But there's a lot of organizations, kind of what we said prior, was those departments kind of buy products at that department level and solve problems at the department level. And I like how you guys are communicating across departments.
Yeah. There is another example along the way, if I may, right? Please. And I'll touch upon a little bit of that in the presentation, right? In CCW, which is, So when you think of customers and then you say, in an environment where it's virtual, like when you think of e-commerce, right? E-commerce is a very, e-commerce and in home goods, it's a very, you want to touch and feel the product before you want to buy. But when it's e-commerce, it's not always giving you a feel of the, a real feel of I'm in a store and I'm going to look at what I'm going to buy, right? And all of that. And so as we look at NPS and, data, etc., I think we have always looked at the data to say, how do I ensure that people have the right experience when they come in to buy post-visit? And one of the things we've seen there is, if you give them a store-like experience, that could help. So we'll hopefully be able to show a demo, etc., of say one of our stores and how does the virtual version of that store look like, where you can go in, you are navigating through the store, you can actually click and buy the product, right? It is virtual, but hopefully it gives a feel of a real store, right? Now that's on the post-visit side. But how do we use that experience on the customer service side as well? And what are some of the learnings from there that we can leverage? And so we have looked at that. We've looked at the technology, which we'll talk about, but we also talk about how we're actually using some of that in our training center of excellence in Athens, Georgia.
I like how you opened up Pandora's box on your talk and then you just snapped it shut and saying, to listen to the entire conversation and see a sneak peek, you have to show up at Contact Center or Customer Contact Week. That was well played. I guess I'll leave it here when it comes to somebody. Let's say somebody's 5 years behind you and they're trying to figure this stuff out. Is there what's some practical guidance that you can help another individual at your level, maybe 5 years back, looking to enhance that customer experience initiative?
Yeah, I would say, I think first one is like, listen to your customers, not only what they are saying, but what they are not saying directly, but it's evident through data, as long as we can, put the pieces together. Number one. Number two, I would say is the relentless focus on solving the customer's problem, meaning don't stop until you have solved the issue for them, but also don't stop at solving the issue for only that one customer, solve it at scale. Right? And then the third piece I would say is meet the customer where they want to be met. In the process, you might be also doing a bit of a customer learning along the journey, but ensuring that only hearing and taking action is helpful. But if you try and meet the customer where they want to be met, I think they'll come back.
Some sound advice. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, Shantanu, and I'm looking forward to meeting you here next month. And for my listeners, get your tickets here and get your seat, get there early because his show will be packed. But Shantanu, thanks so much, and looking forward to meeting you here shortly.
Likewise. Thank you, Nick.